Hi everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and I am excited, really excited, to bring you today's G.I. Joe review. A little bit early, well at least earlier than what was originally expected, the 50th anniversary G.I. Joe products hit, and we're going to be taking a look at them over the next couple of weeks. Starting us off is the Eagle's Edge 3-pack. Now we're starting off with the packaging because there were some things I wanted to show you. Also, as you can tell, Hawk is still in the packaging. We'll get to that in a moment. I was very surprised by this packaging. We had seen test shots and mock-ups previously, but they never really showed all the detail to it. I love the color. I love the little black wash of Snake Eyes, the Hiss tanks, and the Skyhawks, or whatever the heck they're calling it nowadays, and stuff like that. But as you can see, as I'm moving the box around, there is one little thing, and that's this right here, the tab, or the flap, I guess you can call it, where the hook is that you would hook this onto a rack, is actually flush with the front of the packaging instead of the rear, where something like this traditionally would be. I'm not that thrilled with that. As someone who stores figures in packaging after displaying them, this makes it very difficult to store the boxes. It's not as bad as the 2-packs, which we'll get to in another review. But it is going to involve some storage Tetris. But like I mentioned, you have this nice blue, shades of blue packaging here on the front. One thing I do appreciate is that the figures are relatively posed in what I would consider neutral poses, so there's no warpage to the plastic. Destro, unfortunately, had a little bit of a jimmy leg, but that's going to happen. Any weapons are not rubber banded in the hand, they are rubber banded to the wrist. That can be good or bad. Coming around the back here, you have a little bio here on the right here on the top, the 50th anniversary of G.I. Joe. Some people have taken issue to the fact that the packaging states that G.I. Joe has been fighting Cobra for 50 years. I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially considering the Collectors Club has been slowly bringing Cobra into the mythology of the 12-inch figures. There's a little story right here that pertains to the 3-pack, and then you have the individual bios. I'm just going to mention it right now. As I said at the beginning, I'm leaving Hawk in package. This is a direct repaint of the Pursuit of Cobra figure. I'm pretty sure I never reviewed them. If I did, you can go take a look at it in my channel. Maybe I'll put a link in the description if I did. But outside of a few paint variances, it's the same figure, same accessories. No real need, if you have the Pursuit of Cobra figure, to pop this out. You give the accessories to other people. And because of the change in plastic, I'm a little concerned to handle it. Now, the change in plastic we will get to in just a moment when we take a look at our first figure, Destro. A few years ago, at the Joe Con, Hasbro brought out what they called the concept cases. Basically, what it was figures from the last 7 to 10 years that they had developed. Some saw release, some didn't. One of the figures that, up until that point, had not seen release was this Destro figure. It was a stark improvement upon the original 25th anniversary version, and was planned on featuring the newer articulation. As Justin Bell mentioned, What's on Joe Mind co-host, in his review of the pre-production version of Destro, a lot of the core and classic figures, Duke, Cobra Commander, Destro, Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, are pushed out right at the way at the beginning of a line. And that while the toy designs develop, the designs of these core characters get old very fast. So we're very lucky when we get to see an update such as this. Now, right off the bat, I do want to mention the quality of plastic that is used for these figures is not the same as the figures from Retaliation, Pursuit of Cobra, 25th Anniversary, Rise of Cobra, going back. Justin and I have spoken, and the best way to describe it is this is the same quality as the Marvel Universe 4-inch figures. Slightly better. You will notice when you have Destro in hand, there is a slight difference in touch. But I have to be honest with you, it does go away very quickly, especially when you've allowed, if it's been in the hot sun or a hot box, to get to room temperature and what have you. It's not nearly as cheap feeling as I was concerned that it would be, but it's not that classic feeling we all know. There is also, because of this change in plastic, a softening of the detail. As you can see, not all of the lines on Destro's mask are as crisp as they could be. Now, I have to say that this version of his head is based heavily on the card art for the classic Wave 1 figure. A better example to show the change in detail is right here with the rocket launchers, the rockets on his wrist. The rockets have little to no detail and really just look like globs of plastic and paint. Removing his accessory, the briefcase here, which I do want to mention right off the bat, I am very impressed. There is a pin in there, and it's not just you're bending over plastic on plastic. This is the classic Destro figure. There is that gold Cobra insignia, which I'm a little disappointed about, as it's not really conducive to the classic figure. But you have that very wide and tall collar, which is more like a Cobra's hood. And then moving on down, it's predominantly black. I am very disappointed there is no molded holster, nor does Destro come with a small sidearm. I will be pinching probably one of the silenced pistols from the Cobra Trooper in the other 3-pack, just so Destro can have a proper handgun, which is what I think he usually should yield. Now the stand is actually very nice, with the painted gold brushed Cobra logo. For articulation, there is a ball joint here at the head, but it can really only swivel and limited up and down movement. You have the traditional pin and socket shoulders, full rotation, 90-degree bend at the elbow, wrist swivel, as well as the enhanced wrist articulation. This hand bends in and out, while this hand goes up and down. It does have a very nice full ab crunch. I mean, take a look at that. Forward and back, rotation there. Ball jointed hips, pop them off the stand. Double jointed knees. I will admit the hips are a little loose, but not that bad. But the knees can bend fully. And what I'm really excited about is they did give him the forward and back ankle articulation, as well as the ankle pivot. I would have liked to have seen some sort of boot swivel or calf swivel to make up for the lack of left to right ankle rotation. I feel that Destro kind of needs that, since he is technically the field commander for Cobra, and he is a fighter, unlike, say, Cobra Commander, who basically just leads from a tank. Like I said, I was very happy that the figure was not as cheap. You can see slightly here on this leg, there is some slight bowing and, Jimmy leg, but it kind of straightened out, so it's actually not as bad as I thought it was. And I do have to admit, when I first got this figure out of the packaging, the plastic was a lot tackier in my hand, so I think just having him out in room temperature in the air was a little bit better. And it's great that those rocker ankles do allow for the figure to stand properly on a stand. Now, let's take a look at Destro'S Accessories. You might want have a debate on whether or not it's one accessory or multiple. Destro has always been shown to be a businessman. The original figure came with a backpack that was meant to have some sort of storage capabilities, which it did, and instead of a briefcase. But then all the 25th anniversary one had a briefcase, and various other versions have had a briefcase. This one, of course, has a briefcase, as I mentioned. But the best part about it is, oh, and you know what? I forgot which side is up, which side is down. Oh, I got it right. You pop it open, and you have the components to a sniper rifle. Now, right here is my first problem. I've never known Destro in any iteration to be a sniper. I've known him to, be an arms dealer and a maker of weapons, but I've never known him to really use full assault weapons like this. Usually, it's like I mentioned, looking at the figure, it was always like pistols and what have you. Now, funny enough, not all the components in this case are used to make the rifle. This one piece here, which I have no idea what it was, isn't used. And this is a spare clip, I do believe. So, going in and just popping the pieces out. Interesting to note, the pieces that are used to make the rifle are not pegged in. So you have that. And there we go. Basically, you have the main part here, which I have seen in some promo images, Destro holding as just a rifle without a stock. Kind of odd looking. But here's the bipod, and the bipod does come attached in package, but it does snap on and off. Just go ahead, fold that up for now. Next, you have the stock for the rifle. There is a slot right here. Fits in quite nicely, quite snugly, just like so. And you have a really cool looking sniper rifle. And finally, of course, you have the scope. There is a slot right here at the top. It fits in. And I do have to mention that this rifle goes together and stays together much better than, say, this rifle that comes with low light. I really don't know the name of this. I want to say it's like a modified AK-47, but like I said, it stays together, and that's what really impresses me. Now, while the hands of Destro are a little softer than what they were, the best way I can describe it is that it feels like the 6-inch black Star Wars figure's hands. It's just soft enough to get the weapons in easily without problems, and it doesn't fall out. And yes, you can get Destro into various sniping poses, two-handed poses, holding the rifle. It's a little fidgety, but it's not that bad. And like I said, the rifle works. So yeah, while I'm not a big fan of him coming with this weapon, I am a big fan of this weapon. Let's take a look at his packmate, Leatherneck. When it comes to the history of the real American hero characters and media, there are two schools. One are those who grew up on the comic books and really gravitate towards that history as being the definitive history of the characters, and then folks like me who grew up with the cartoon. In those regards, you do sometimes end up with discrepancies between characters. In the comics, Leatherneck really wasn't that big of a character. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that in the comics, the story of G.I. Joe was a continuing narrative, and that a lot of times the new characters that had to be introduced due to the toy line really didn't fit in. The cartoon was a little bit different, and Leatherneck really was one of the most beloved and remembered characters from that line. And it's great to see him done for the 50th anniversary. Now, this is not the first version of Leatherneck we are seeing since the original figure. There were actually a version done during the 25th anniversary that came with a Target exclusive Awe Striker, and then there was one that was part of a vehicle set for Ryza Cobra. Both of them weren't that wonderful, namely due to the fact that they had Duke arms. But this right here is the classic Leatherneck, with one slight problem. First, his hands are basically well, the whole body basically comes from the Retaliation Battle Kata um, Ultimate version of Roadblock, hence why he's such a beefier figure. The other problem is that the hands are wide. I think they're really were molded for the grips for the Battle Kata blasters and whatever other machine guns, and they have a hard time, combined with the fact that they're made with that soft plastic, have a hard time getting proper grips on his M16 with grenade launcher um, without it falling out of the hands. The next part is the head. While looking very nice, a lot of the detail is lost due to the softer plastic. Now, it's not that bad on Leatherneck. I think Lowlight has it the worst, but like I said, we'll get to him later on. Articulation is basically the same as the Battle Kata, the Ultimate Roadblock. You have a ball-jointed head, very expressive with that side-to-side tilt. The vest is new. Unfortunately, it does hinder the ab crunch and what have you, although it is there ever so slightly. Justin Bell, again from General's Joe's and What's on Joe Mine, did mention on his that there was a bit of an issue with getting the vest to stay closed. I really haven't had a problem, but your mileage may vary. Pin and socket shoulders, 90-degree bend at the elbow. There is a nice little wash on the skin here, like he's been out in the sun. And the hands have full rotation as well as the enhanced articulation. I do believe on this hand it's up and down. And I think on this hand too it's the same, up and down. Yeah, it's the same articulation on both sides. He does have a sidearm, this great M1911, which I think is based on Duke's 25th anniversary model and the version that came with the Resolute figures. Can hold it in the hand, but I will, you get it in. There is a trigger finger. It does stay, but it is a little loose. There are ball-jointed hips, double-jointed knees, and yes, even rocker ankles, forward and back pivot, which again help with standing on the stand. As you can see for accessories as well, there are two knives, which, sorry to say, Leatherneck holds that one pretty well. The dagger over the chest right here. They hold, but it is a very loose grip. I do think it's kind of funny in the year 2014, Hasbro still has a hard time making functional knives for the soldiers. As I mentioned previously, one of his main weapons is the M16 with grenade launcher. This is what the classic figure came with, and unfortunately, I do have to wag my fickle finger of disdain at Hasbro. The way this was set up in package, there was already a stress mark right there. You can see that white spot on the barrel, and it was, bent backwards. Again, in 2014, there really is no reason for weapons to not be properly stored. He did come with one more accessory that comes from the Ultimate Roadblock, Battle Kata Roadblock. Well, actually, I think it's just Ultimate Roadblock, but it is that large 50 caliber chain gun. It can be pegged into the back here in the little peg hole. You probably saw, you've seen it once, you've seen it a million times. That's what it is. Leatherneck, great figure. I just wish he could hold his accessories better. I have to admit, after reading Justin Bell's reviews on generalsjoes.com, you're welcome, Justin. That's the third time I'm mentioning you in one of my reviews. I was very hesitant to get these figures. I was also really set to cancel my pre-orders because I was very disgusted with the fact that the plastic being used was of a lesser quality than what we've gotten, and frankly what I think the 50th anniversary of the toy line deserves. But I went through with it, and again, I was hesitant to even go forward with these reviews. This is a Sunday night. My Joe reviews usually go up on Monday, so I'm giving myself less than 24 hours to do the whole recording and editing because I wasn't really sure what I was going to say. Getting Destro in hand and realizing that the plastic really isn't that bad. Not to say that there haven't been some issues with other people's figures and quality control. It did make me feel a little bit better about going forward with these. Out of the 3 set, I have to say Destro is my favorite. To have this version of Destro, a classic version of Destro, if we're all honest with ourselves, this was really the last opportunity to get that. Leatherneck is great. He's a great soldier, great trooper. I know some of you are nuts for it, but for me, this set was all about Destro. Hawk, I never thought Hawk was that rare or hard to find. I mean, you can just pick up Hawk online. Even mint on card should be less than $15. And it'll be made with that sterner plastic. But I feel confident enough in these 2 figures to recommend the Eagle's Edge set. They are a Toys R Us exclusive. They are on shelves now, have been on shelves since the tail end of July, beginning of August. These were originally supposed to drop August 13th, 2014. As of this recording, it's August 10th, and I have them, that first wave of sorts. You can also find them online at Big Bad Toy Store. It's a shared exclusive. However you get it, pick these up and enjoy the figures. This is your old pal Chuck for Destro, Leatherneck, General Hawk, who's in the package, and the Eagle's Edge. We'll see you next time.